Hey, very good. Morning, everybody. Okay, so just a quick reminder that next week we're not going to have a class. Apparently, the building is already like on some sort of a Yom Tov schedule. So we'll take a break. But we basically covered all the Shabbat liturgy. We spoke about Shacharit, Kabbalat Shabbat, Arvit, Mincha. And we discussed Shabbat Rosh Chodesh. With Ataya Tzarta. What I would like to do is to delve into Shalosh Regalim a little bit. Why specifically Shalosh Regalim? Because the structure of Tfilat Shalosh Regalim is very, very similar to the Tfilah of Shabbat. And so hopefully today we'll be able to cover Shalosh Regalim. And then after the break, next year, we can start Tfilot Achol. Okay? We're going to go back to we're going to start with the weekday Tfilah. Okay? So today we're going to do Shalosh Regalim. So when we talk about Shalosh Regalim, obviously it's what are the Shalosh Regalim? Pesach, Sukkot, and Shavuot. Okay, these are the three. And not exactly the same tefillah, but a lot of the elements also exist in two other biblical holidays, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Okay, when we get one day, we'll get to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and tefillah over there is significantly different. However, in its structure, there are some elements that we find in the Shalosh Regalim. That means all the biblical holidays have some elements that are the same. Now, so when we talk about, let's start as we always do with the structure, kind of an overview of the tefillah. So, as we said it many times, the day in Judaism starts from the night, right? So Ma'ariv is going to be the first tefillah, and when we look at the Ma'ariv for Shalosh Regalim, technically it's the same Ma'ariv as that we have on Shabbat, which is not very different than the Ma'ariv that we have every day. I'm not talking about the Amidah. So if you remember, when it comes to the Ma'ariv or Arvit, we have basically two main units. We have the Shema unit, which we talked about. Remember the sandwich, the two blessings before, the blessing after. And we have the Amidah. These are the two components that we have in the Ma'ariv service. So the Ma'ariv service, when we talk about the Shema unit, is identical. Shalosh Regalim, Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot is identical to the one that we have on Shabbat, with one tiny, tiny difference, that we do not recite V'shamru B'nei Yisrael et Shabbat. Those verses that we have after Ashkivenu, they are replaced with one verse that is Vaydaber Moshe et Moadei Hashem al B'nei Yisrael. Okay, so that makes sense. It's a one tiny difference. So here there's no real difference between Shabbat and Shalosh Regalim. Where is the difference? The difference in the Amidah. Now, if you remember, when we talked about the Amidah on Shabbat, we said that Shacharit, Mincha, Arvit, and actually Musaf also, they all have the theme of Shabbat, but since the day itself evolves, the day itself in its nature changes. Remember, we talked about this image of the wedding, right? The Abu Draham explaining that different stages of the wedding. Therefore, Kedushat Hayom, the middle bracha of the Amidah, changes all the time, right? So on Arvit, Mincha, Shachar, it's not the same. They're all talking about Shabbat, but it's not the same text. When it comes to Yom Tov, it is the same. Because most cases, because it's whatever, it's a weekday. And a Monday, from the beginning of Monday till the end of Monday, it's a Monday. Shabbat is the only day that Chazal teaches us that it changes. The character of the day changes throughout the day, and therefore that has to be somehow, no, it has to be somehow characterized somehow in the tefillah. But the Shalosh Regalim, since it's not a Shabbat, it's the same Amidah. So Shacharit, Mincha, and Arvit is going to be the same Amidah. Musaf is going to be different because we spoke about Musaf, and what did we say about Musaf? Musaf, the heart of every Musaf is the Korbanot, is the Korban Musaf. So that's going to be different. And therefore, when it comes to Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot, each one of them is gonna be slightly different because the Korban is different. Yeah? Okay. And that's the heart of every Musaf service, is the quote from the Torah, those verses that talk about the Korbanot. Okay. But Shacharit, Mincha, and Arvit is going to be the same, the same tefillah. Okay? Fine. We're going to discuss that in a second, that tefillah. Then what are other differences that we have in the tefillah itself? Meaning, so we covered Arvit, we talked about the Shema, there are no differences. The Amidah is going to be totally different, fine. I mean, actually the middle bracha, fine. Then in the morning, do we have any differences? Not really, right? So Birkot HaShachar, right, the first unit of the tefillah, all the morning blessings are going to be exactly the same. Psukei de Zimra is going to be the same as Shabbat. Why? It's the same element. It's not like weekday. I mean, it is a weekday, but it's not like a regular weekday where we go to work and everybody's in a hurry or whatever. We have more time, just like on Shabbat, and therefore we have this expanded unit of Psukei de Zimra, just like on Shabbat. Okay? Fine. Then what happens? We have the Shema unit. And here, it really depends. If it's Shabbat, we're going to do the first bracha, just like Shabbat, i.e., if you remember, the first bracha of the Shema is the Yotzer, is talking about the creation. Remember, we talked about this idea of creation, we talked about this idea of the past, we talked about this idea of luminaries, like all that stuff, right? We have that both in the evening and in the morning. And so if we said that on Shabbat it's expanded Yotzer, we have poems inserted inside the bracha, right? You don't remember. La'el asher Shabbat mikol ha'ma'asim, and we have El Adon, all that kind of stuff. That stuff is added. These are poems that are added on Shabbat specifically. So if the holiday coincides with Shabbat, we're going to do that. But if the holiday does not coincide with Shabbat, then we're not going to do it. We're going to do the regular version of the blessing as we recited this morning on a regular Tuesday or whatever that is. Okay? And that goes all the way to the Amidah. The Amidah, as we just mentioned, is going to be the same Amidah as the previous night for Shacharit. Okay? And then that takes us into the taking of the Torah. Over there we have a little bit of a difference. We're going to, on Chagim that do not coincide with Shabbat, we have the 13 Midot. We're going to talk about that hopefully today. And then Musaf, as we mentioned, is Musaf, is specifically designed for that day, with verses that talk about the Korban of that particular day. What happens in Mincha? Mincha is going to be just like Shabbat in its structure. And again, the Amidah is going to be the same Amidah as we had in the evening and in the morning. That's basically kind of the overview of the Shalosh Regalim. So the two things that we need to delve into is the Amidah for Shacharit, Mincha, and Arvit, and the Amidah for Musaf. Okay? These are the two big pieces. Two small things that we need to cover is one, is where the Chazan starts actually in Shacharit on the Chagim. It's a little bit different than Shabbat. Here is a Gabbai. Michael? Yeah, where? Not a Chochenad. Before. Ah, okay. So let's take a look at that and try to understand why, what's going on. Okay. So we're looking at page 402. I'm without reading glasses, so that's going to be tough. Yeah. I had also like, however, I have it from Shemshon if I have a verse about the Shalosh Regalim, and that is what I want to go over today. Okay, I'll have to find that in a minute. Okay, 402 in the bottom. 402, I'm sorry. 402 in the bottom. Okay. So you can see there's probably a note, which is in a small print. On festivals, the Chazan for Shacharit begins here. Yeah, I need to go and get them. Yeah. Give me a second. Again, I can. Yeah. Okay. So as we see on the Chagim, again from it's just the custom. Okay, this is not halacha. The halacha is that the Chazan actually, it actually becomes real with the Kaddish. That's the custom, though. The custom is to start before because we don't want to create an interruption. And so the Chazan starts. So on Shabbat, the Chazan starts on 404. Now, just giving you, just kind of putting it in context. Remember what that is. Look, it's a long section. Starts from the bottom of page 400, right? That's Nishmat. Just kind of like repeating what we learned already. Nishmat, or the way the Talmud calls it, Birkat Hashir, it's a long section, mainly psukim, verses, okay? Sometimes fragments of psukim, not complete psukim, right? That is put together, and it's kind of supposed to be the culmination of Psukei de Zimra. Where else do we recite it? Recite it also in the Haggadah, exactly. Because the Haggadah itself is a form of Hallel, right? Especially that. And what is Psukei de Zimra? It's the Talmud calls it Hallel Shebechol Yom, the everyday Hallel. Okay? Now, so the custom is that on Shabbat, the Chazan starts the top of 404, Shochen ad Marom Bekadosh Shemo. Why? And if we understand that for a second, that'll help us to understand why on the Shalosh Regalim, the Chazan starts like a little bit earlier. What is Shochen ad? And by the way, everybody goes to the Shochen ad Marom, which is wrong, but Shochen ad Marom Bekadosh Shemo, right? Because Shochen ad is reference to God, right? God, He who abides forever, and then exalted is and holy is His name. Maron and Kadosh go together is a description of His name. That's a kind of a side note. It's not Maron Kadosh Shemo. No, it's Maron Kadosh Shemo. Okay. Anyway, what is Shochenad? What is like in terms of the themes that we talked about Shabbat that relates to somehow relate to
before creation.
exactly, but it resonates with the theme of creation, which is Zecher Lamasa Vereshit. Shabbat is Zecher Lamasa Vereshit. Shabbat is right. We say it. Vaychu lo shamayim v'aretz v'chol tzva'am. אתה קידשת את יום השביעי לשמך תכלית מעשה. Right? The whole Friday night is about creation. Right? Shabbat of creation. We said it many, many, many times. So this is also highlighting the fact that God was there even before creation. Okay, that works for Shabbat. Okay, now let's go back to page 402 on the bottom. האל בתעצומות עוזך, הגדול בכבוד שמך. What is this? Let's look at the English on 403 on the bottom. O God, in the omnipresence of your strength, great in the glory of your name, mighty forever and awesome through your awesome deeds. That's a totally different theme. This is God powerful. God, right? It's the mighty of God. That's not a theme of Shabbat. But let's think about it for a second. That's exactly the theme of the Regalim. What are the Regalim? Pesach, Shavuot, Sukkot. What is this? These are historic events on which God's might, God's presence, God's strength was revealed in the world. And that's what we're celebrating. Pesach took us out of Egypt. That's the Exodus. Shavuot is the revelation at Sinai. And Sukkot is taking care of us in the desert, protecting us. So
Shabbat is when God stopped. Shabbat mikol melachto.
God stopped Shabbat. That's correct. That's different. Shabbat is different. But what we're celebrating in the holiday, the whole essence of those holidays we are celebrating God's, call it power, God's presence, relationship with us through those historic events, etc. Okay, how that's going to translate into our lives today? We're going to deal with that in the Amidah. Hold on. Okay, so that is why we start already there, because that's the theme of the Shalosh Regalim. What happens, by the way, on Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? Hamelech. So that's like in the mid. That's the middle of that line, the very end of 402. We say, "O King," something, enthroned upon a high and lofty throne. Well, that is the theme, Malchuyot, and acknowledging God as our King. That's what we do on Rosh Hashanah. So what's the practice is teaching us that we try to give some sort of context from the very beginning, kind of like, okay, that resonates with the themes of the day, kind of creating, okay? This is why, by the way, we have in the Nusach HaTfilah, meaning in the melodies, we have different Nusach for Shabbat, specifically the Amidah, because the Shema section is the same. But for Shabbat and the Shalosh Regalim, the musical motifs are different. Why? because we want to create like this overall experience that it's different. We're celebrating here something different. It's not a Shabbat. You know, for kids, I remember when my kids, now they're like a little bit older, they're starting to understand a little bit, but when they were like really young, it's they were confused. Wait, we go to shul, but it's not Shabbat. Like, what is this? Like, you know, it's kind of confusing, right? Believe it or not only kids get confused, also adults get confused. And so through the music, we also help with that. If you hear that motif, ta da 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 pa 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 pam, you know, Shalosh Regalim, it's very distinct. Okay? Okay. So we took care of that, which what we need to do is to go into the Amidah itself. And the Amidah for, yes, yes.
Because it's spaced out, so we don't forget.
You don't forget.
I think
You don't forget what?
everything that has to do with the holiday is God.
Ah, okay.
This is like
Okay. That's a reminder. Okay. That is fine. So this is should have okay, we're gonna find somebody to volunteer. I'm looking at Nahama here to volunteer reading. This is taken from the Hirsch Siddur of Samson Raphael Hirsch, and his explanation on that. So reminding everybody, what is the structure of the Amidah? Remember, again, the first three brachot and the last three brachot, they never change. Okay, so we covered that 1,000,000 times, right? Avod, Gvorot, Kedushat Hashem, those three brachot, we don't have to look. We know this last three brachot, we know that they don't change. And we know there's a total of 7 blessings, because as I said, the structure of the Amidah is exactly like Shabbat, right? It's 7 brachot on Shabbat. So we know we have only the middle bracha, one middle bracha, Kedushat Hayom, sanctification of the day, that is going to be different. Okay? Now, so that's what we're going to look at. We're looking at page 662. The second paragraph. We can look actually, let's take a look at the English for a second. You have chosen us from all the peoples. Everybody see where I am? 663, second paragraph. Now, what is this? Why now? Opening for Kedushat Hayom, we're going to see that in you know, it's the same Amidah, so we're going to see it in throughout the day in the Tefillot. It's a main theme in the Shalosh Regalim. Okay, why?
because of the blessing that God gave us, He chose us, so we had something special.
Okay, fine, but what is it? The connection, which is kind of obvious, but what is the connection between the holidays and this idea of choosing us?
He chose us for a purpose,
Okay,
and therefore the holidays remind us that.
exactly, and these are the historic events that showcase that. I mean, he chose us, and this is why he took us out of Egypt. That's Pesach. He chose us, and this is why he gave us the Torah. This is Shavuot. He chose us, and because of that, he protected us in the desert. That is Sukkot. Okay, so that's a main theme. And because you've chosen us, we're going to hear from Rav Hirsch in a second what exactly it means. Yeah. You loved us and found favor in us. So you choose something and then you love.
You don't choose us because you love.
Exactly. Okay? Exactly. And as a result, you exalted us above all tongues, and you sanctified us with your commandments. Okay, so when you have something that you love and you chose, okay, if you have like, I don't know, a favorite, I don't know, a favorite, well, that's going to be tough with the ice cream flavor, but let's assume that you have like, a favorite jewelry, piece of jewelry, or a favorite piece of clothing or whatever, something like that. So you set it aside to some extent and you say, I'm going to use that on special occasions or stuff like that, right? You create separation between, I don't know, let's assume it's a tie, okay? You have a favorite tie, that tie and the other ties, or whatever that is. But here it goes another step. And because of that, you sanctified us. What does it mean? With your commandments. How you become holy, how you become sanctified is through the fulfillment of the commandments. Okay, so it comes with a price.
What makes you special is that you get these commandments
Correct.
to do.
Correct. Is it what makes you special, or this is? I don't think so. I think because the progression is, it. Correct. You become special because you were chosen. But how you fulfill your function, your chosenness, exactly, your function as special is through the fulfillment of the commandments. So there's like, it's a two-way. Okay, there's an interaction. It's like, we've been chosen, we've done nothing for that, but we're giving also commandments. That's our responsibility. We have to do something in exchange as well. Yes.
When you start here, I have a bit of a question here.
Yeah.
God chose us because of what?
Mm.
Have we been special from others, or have we done something special?
So that's a huge, well, two things. As Rav Soloveitchik talks about that, there's the Brit Goral and Brit Yeud. You have the two. One is, yes, because the Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, they were promised, that's a deal. And because we are their descendants, yes. But there's another one. It's the functionality, is the role. And I think this is what this statement goes to. It's through the commandment. It's what do you do with that? It's yes, I was chosen because of my forefathers. I get it. That's going to get me so far. I have to do something with that.
Stay chosen.
Stay chosen. Exactly. You have to do something to form your own relationship. By the way, how do we start the Amidah? Look, go one page before, like page. No, just a little bit after that, 660. Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu. God is the God of, it's our God, but it's also the God of our forefathers. So, yes, I'm automatically, yes, I've been chosen. I was born into this, I was born Jewish. Great. That gets me through the door. Then what? It has to be also my God. I have to form my own relationship with God. It's not enough that he's the God of my forefathers. I have to form my own relationship with God. It's the same thing here. It's great that I was chosen, and it's because of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. That's fantastic. But then what? God says, I'm giving you the commandments. Now it's up to you. Okay? That's the Brit Yeud. This is your destiny, and that's on you. Brit Goral, that's your that's okay. So the two elements coexist. If you want right? And your holy name, your great and holy name, you proclaimed upon us. So yes, you did that in the past, right, on the Jewish people, but that's mainly not because of me. That's, you can say Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, okay, fine. But I need to be worthy of that. I need to do my own something to be part of that as well. Okay? Fine. That statement was a major debate later on when it came with, like, much later in history, mainly with the Reform movement, and even today with the Reconstructionist movement. So the whole idea of God choosing us, and because of that means that we are better than other nations and all that kind of stuff, completely they disagree with that theologically, and it's completely out. Reform movement understood later on, it took them a while to, no, it's not that simple. It's not that we're not saying that we're better than others. So they brought it back. I mean, they don't have obviously a Musaf service, but the element of choosing God, choosing Am Yisrael is something that is still kind of like debatable. Reconstructionist movement took it out completely. According to their understanding, is a very limited, simple understanding. God chose us. That means we are better than others. That is not cool. We don't believe in that, and therefore they took it out. I wish they read Rav Hirsch before making those statements here. So look at Atav Chartanu.
What did they substitute?
Nothing. They just took it out.
You designated us for a specific task and destiny.
What does it mean being chosen? It's not that I'm better than you. It means God realizes that every nation, every person in the world has a specific task. We as a nation have a specific task. It doesn't make us better than others, but we are designated for something specific in contrast to other nations that are probably tasked with something else that is specific. Next.
Ahavta, you have found our character not entirely in contradiction with the sanctity of your own being.
Why this is important? And what is the chidush here? We said that God is all about love. That means, but we are people. We're not. We're not God. So what he says, the fact that you love us doesn't mean that we are now, whoa. No, it means that we have parts that work together with this. You can work it out. It's like rough diamonds, like, unpolished diamonds. I can work with that. God says, I can work with that. They have potential. Right? Fine. Kids that need to be, hopefully, polished. Yes. Yeah. Educated. Yes. Refined. Yes. Okay.
Tatsita, you have deemed us a fit instrument for the fulfillment of your will.
It's not that God said, no. God has a plan, a master plan. We happen to fit into that plan. Yeah. We have that talent, we have that characteristic, whatever that is, that we can do that. It's not that, you have a child and you love that child and whatever they do is amazing and wonderful. I mean, it's like, oh, look, he just burped. It's so wonderful. No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying we are chosen for that task. It fits within the master plan. We have something to offer that worked with that. And God says, even though it's unpolished, I can work with that. But it's all about God. It's all about the master plan. We just happen to be equipped with whatever needed for that particular task. I get it. And because of Abraham, it's also us. I get it.
Right. So
But it's a different, okay, call it DNA, that's fine. And some kids are, they are, I don't know, physically, whatever, they're taller, so they're probably gonna be better for the overall basketball team. Obviously, obviously, obviously. But the point is that what we're saying is in comparison to the other nations, it's not that we're so amazing. It's not. We have this talent. It's like, the school is looking and it says, you know what? I really need this kid because he's tall and he's fast and he can play ball. So for the overall welfare, the reputation of the school, I'm going to take him. It's not that I like this kid better than the little slow short kid. No,
fits the bill.
it fits the bill. Okay.
Regalim Tanu. Among all the languages of mankind, it is our tongue that you have chosen as best suited vehicle for the revelation of your Torah and the message of your prophets.
Okay, so that is kind of like more straightforward. Hebrew as a language is the language that God chose. Okay, it happened to be our language. Or perhaps there's even like a kind of it's connected because we were tasked with the commandments. So it makes sense that our language is going to be the one in which the commandments were given.
Mhm.
Okay.
What did Abraham speak?
No, that's way before. That's Akkadian probably or something like that.
In the early years, I think everybody said Hebrew.
Who's everybody?
The people of the earth.
I don't think so.
We don't know. Yeah, that's what I.
What did Abraham Shalosh speak?
I don't know. We don't have records of that.
It is such a rich language. Like if you look, compare the Hebrew word to the English word, there could be 3 Hebrew words and like.
It's actually the opposite. English is much richer than much more.
We have the Shalosh.
That's correct. That's all the Semite languages work in that way, with the Shaloshim, correct. That is something that we don't find in the Germanic languages like English and the European languages, correct.
V'kidashtan, and you have constantly furthered the ennoblement of the spiritual and moral aspects of our nature through the influence of your commandments, which we are to fulfill.
Here we go. Kedusha, according to Hirsch, is something you need to continue nurture. It's not something that happens. Oh, I was born, I'm holy. No. You know how you're going to achieve that? You're going to fulfill the mitzvot, and you're going to keep doing that. The fact that you've done it, that's great for that moment. Keep going, keep doing that. The more you do it, this is how you need to be continuing to advance. This is Kedusha. This is what it says. It's that track. It's that continuous doing of mitzvot. And what he's saying is God is behind us. He's cheering us. How is cheering us? He's giving us those mitzvot. He's giving us, it's like feeding us. You want a kid to grow, you keep feeding them. That's basically it. You want the kid to get somewhere, then you nurture that. They have a talent or whatever that is, or you want them to advance in math or whatever, you help them. It's not great. You did 100 in that test. Amazing. That's it. You're done. No. Keep going. There's always keep going, keep nonstop. This is how you create also Kedusha, he says. It's that process.
By giving us your law, you have become our king, and so have permitted us to draw near to you as your loyal servants.
Very important. How you achieve closeness boundaries.
Problem here because it shows us before.
So what? The fact that I choose you doesn't mean that you're close to me.
But then why would you choose?
Just like a
Because
servant.
I see the talent, I see the potential. Doesn't mean that we're close. Closeness is going to happen through our relationship. Closeness is going to happen. And how do we achieve that relationship with God?
By serving.
Okay. Continue it.
B'shimcha hagadol, by shaping all of our life's relationships and by your evident guidance of our destinies, you have made us the bearers of your name.
Right. When you create this type of closeness, then you can bear that name. When you have children, yes, automatically they get your name. I get it. But I think the idea is you hopefully raise your kids, shape them in a way that make you proud that they're going to continue and they're going to bear your name.
Or they represent you.
Yeah, of course. That's what it means. How that's possible is because of that closeness. Right? A kid that you don't know of, that you have no relationship with, you don't have that closeness, isn't going to be the bearer of your name. I get it. Legally, maybe yes. I have no idea. I'm not a lawyer. But that's not what we mean. Right? It's and by the way, the flip side, it doesn't have to be your biological child, right? It's that child that you have that relationship with. Okay? Same goes here. Because of that relationship, because of that closeness, because of the task, because of that interaction, because of the work, because it's and he breaks it down and he explains step by step why this is happening. Because of that, God says, okay, you can have my name. Yeah.
So
V'chartanu.
So we were created first. Then why would he choose us later? Because he already knew what he did.
But the point is, people are born, you don't know what's going to happen with them.
Yeah, but where you will be, God is different.
I get it. But and who wrote our tefillot?
You.
Right. And they speak in our language in a way that relates to us. It's not only that it's limited, it's exactly. It's something that we can relate to. The tefillot have to express us. It's not the Torah, it's not the word of God. I said it many times. The Torah is the way God speaks to us. Tefillah is when we speak to God.
Actually, the Torah means a way that leads us.
Okay. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
המקור של העברית היא הכנעני. הוספה דיבר העם הכנעני שישב בחלקו באזור בו מדינת ישראל יושבת היום, ועוד שנים לפני הספירה הארמית, צפה בה דיברו בעיקר באשור, פרס ובסוריה, זלגה עם הזמן גם בארץ ישראל, והשפיעה מאוד על העברית, למרות תקופות בהן דיברו בארץ ישראל בארמית, עדיין לא נשכחה שפה הזו, מכיוון שהשתמשו בה בעיקר לצרכים דתיים וטקסטיים.
As we say in Yiddish, oder gesucht. Okay, that's one opinion. That's a scholar, whatever. That's let's call it modern science, whatever. It's not always tradition has a slightly different take on that, but yeah, I don't see much of a contradiction. Yes, and no. Okay, so this is super important. I think that if they bothered to look at Rav Hirsch, Reconstructionist movement would include, I would have probably a better understanding and include that. Okay. So this is the first statement. If you flip the page on page 664, the top paragraph.
Can I ask one question about their
Absolutely, David, yes.
just it's the Reconstructionist and the Reform that reject
No,
the.
it's mainly the Reconstruction. Reform came around.
Okay. Is it that they don't see us as having a mission statement sort of thing or a connecting to God through mitzvahs? Is that what they reject, or is it that
They don't know? It's the idea of God choosing us. Like,
Sure.
in their understanding, like, choosing, it means that it implies that we're better. And they said we're not better. That's their limited
I guess they
understanding.
didn't watch
So
business.
I told someone I thought that it was because we're chosen for a special purpose. We have a special mission. It's not just chosen.
I understand, and I agree with you. That's exactly what Rav Hirsch says, but that was not the understanding of the founding fathers of the Reconstructionist movement.
Mhm.
That's what it sounds like.
That's not our topic.
So
Okay.
this sounds a little bit like we have to. We are chosen, but we also have to choose to be chosen. It's like
Okay.
it's almost
We have,
like they
we have we have a lot of work to do. Yeah, that's
Mhm,
exactly my point.
mhm.
Okay, let's go. I'm just going to mention what's going on over there. The top of page 664, it's technical. Why am I saying technical? What happens is this is when a holiday falls on Sunday, Saturday night on Sunday. Okay, so you have a 3-day. If Shabbat going into a Chag. Correct, and this is what we're going to say it in a second. We're going to talk about that in a second. But so what do we do every Saturday in Motzei Shabbat? We do Havdalah, right? But here we're going from one type of Kedusha of Shabbat into holiday. What kind of Havdalah we're going to do? So we have kind of like mix, right? Some of the elements, because we can use fire, but in a limited way, right? We can transfer fire on the Chag. We were not able to do so on Shabbat. Okay, there's like differences, and we need to somehow distinct, which is Havdalah, lehavdil. We need to distinct to make a separation, to show that separation between the two. So on Motzei Shabbat, every Motzei Shabbat, we have a insert inside the fourth bracha. When we say Atah chonen la'adam da'at, we have a form of Havdalah. Atah chonantanu lomadat toratecha, etc. Okay, that's a paragraph that we add on Motzei Shabbat, because the formal Havdalah that we do at home, okay, that's wonderful, but that's the second Havdalah. The first Havdalah happens already in Ma'ariv. Why specifically in that bracha? Because if you don't have the mental capacity to understand that stuff, then okay, so you need to have you have to have that. You need to have some basic understanding, intelligence, basic intelligence to understand. Oh, now it's Shabbat, now it's weekdays, okay, etc. So, in a similar way, that paragraph talks about, it's also a form of Havdalah. It's a form of, when is going to be the Havdalah, the real Havdalah that we're going to do? It's going to be again. We're going to be home, but it's not going to be Havdalah, it's going to be Kiddush. But inside that Kiddush, there's going to be also a Havdalah. Okay? Yeah. That's what we're gonna do a Havdalah Kiddush combo. But just like every Motzei Shabbat, we say Atah chonantanu, which is a Havdalah from Shabbat into the weekdays. Here we have a different form of Havdalah that gets us from Shabbat to Yom Tov, to Chag. Okay? And a lot of the text is the same thing. But there are differences. So if you look at the English, you understand it's very straightforward. So this is a kind of a technical thing. It's less theological. It's more technical. Okay. Second paragraph on 664. So We have all that relationship with God. We were chosen, blah, blah, blah. We have the commandments. We have all that closeness, all that kind of stuff. And and you've given us with love those festivals for gladness, festivals of times, for joy. Remember, we've talked about that in the past. Chagim, the festivals are the time in which we are commanded to be happy, not Shabbat. There's no obligation to be happy on Shabbat. There's an obligation to rest. And rest, by the way, is not staying in bed. Rest is refraining from melacha. Right? Creative work. Right? That doesn't mean you can be extremely tired after Shabbat, especially when you have little kids. Extremely tired after Shabbat. And yet you have fulfilled Shabbat probably in the most beautiful way if you were engaged with your kids and you played with them and whatever. Alongside the other things. Don't quote me here. Alongside going to shul, alongside the meals, alongside all that kind of stuff, right? But it's still tiring. Very tiring. What? It will pass, I know. So this is but it's rest from the other activities. It's not necessarily physical rest. Now, what? Rest from melacha. Okay, fine. But in the holidays, there's a commandment for simcha, right? The pasuk says, "V'samachta b'chagecha." There's an obligation specifically to be sameach, to be happy, right? That translates into halachic ramifications. Here's one of them. If somebody, God forbid, somebody's sitting Shiva, right? The Shiva stops. It's being canceled by the holiday, but not Shabbat. Not Shabbat. Shabbat, the Shiva continues after Shabbat. Actually, the Shiva never stops. The public practice or the public mourning, we stopped at Shabbat, but after Shabbat, you go back to the Shiva. Holiday takes away the Shiva. Why? Because Chazal said that this is too much of a contradiction. You can't really be in the state of Shiva and fulfill that mitzvah of a samachta b'chagecha, to be happy on the holiday. It's just impossible. The two contradict each other. Here's another example. Here in Chutz La'aretz, our custom, at least Ashkenazim, is to duchan, to have Birkat Kohanim only on the Chagim and Musaf. Why? Because you have to be happy. So you ask me, what's the connection? Well, it goes back to the times of when the Kohanim had, one of the practices was to go to the mikvah every day because they had to do Birkat Kohanim. Try to go to the mikvah in the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, in Russia, for example, in Poland, when it's like minus God knows how much, go to the mikvah, and the mikvah is not heated. Are they going to be happy about that? No, I don't think so. They're not going to be happy about that. Are they going, and they're commanded to give the Birkat Kohanim how? Be'ahava, with love. They should have the joy of giving that. That's going to happen? No, I don't think so. At 6 a.m. in the morning after dunking into a freezing cold mikvah, in Russia in January, I don't think so. So the practice is, so the rabbi said, you know what? Forget it. Don't do that. Good 3 times a year. Another step, by the way.
So that change was just for the practicality of how cold it was in the winter? Is
one of the reasons? Actually, I don't know if you know, there's a series of books called Ratzka Tzvi Reisman, who lives on the other side of town, that put it. I looked at his book. He put 16 different reasons for the change of the custom. Sephardim, by the way, still do that today. You go to a Persian shul here on Pico, they do Birkat Kohanim every day, just like in Israel. So it's only the Ashkenazim. Anyway, another That's exactly the point. This is why I'm saying this is one of the reasons. Another one is we do specifically in Musaf and not in Shacharit. Like in Israel, they do it both in Shacharit and Musaf, right? So why only in Musaf? Because again, you have to be besimcha. I'm sorry, because you have to do it with ahava, with great love. How you feel that love when you're excited, Kohanim are excited and everybody's happy. Why they're happy? Because Musaf, it's towards the end. You feel already the cholent, you feel the meal. You know the chazan is already like, how much can he drag it? He's got simshon, one more blessing. That's how long can he drag it? I can feel I'm already antsy. You know, I see the end. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. Okay, good. I'm excited enough to give that bracha be'ahava. Why? Okay, so now you ask me why specifically on the holidays and not on Shabbat? Because on the holidays we're commanded to have lavish, big meals. Most people, yeah, they had like whatever they were able to do on Shabbat, but there was no, you have to have lechem mishnah, you have to whatever. But on the holidays, you really have to make it special, extra special. So people know that they have like special meal. That was like a highlight. That was a big deal. They're excited. Okay, so I can. So there are halachic ramifications for all that stuff of what did we say? Of being glad, right? We said like, this idea of simcha and sason, just a second, and then there's specification, okay, on Pesach, Chag HaMatzot, Chag HaShavuot, Chag HaSukkot, etc., which is a mikra kodesh, okay, a holy convocation, okay, basically it's holy day from the mikra, from the Torah. It's biblical. That's what we're saying. And what it is a zecher litziat mitzrayim. All the holidays we say it's zecher litziat mitzrayim. That connects to this idea of God taking care of us. And by the way, all that stuff that we said, the Exodus, the revelation at Sinai, and God and Sukkot taking care of us, they're all continuation of the same idea, right? Why did we leave Egypt? In order to receive the Torah, right? And if you want that Torah to be kept, you better protect those people, right? It's all connected. So they're all connected to this idea of Zecher Litziat Mitzrayim. Okay?
What's the difference between simcha and sason?
I have to look into that. I'm sure that there's like some sort of a. I'm sure that there is.
So the community, it's a much.
Okay, I think one of the Mefarshim talks about one is physical and one is spiritual. There's a couple of them. I don't remember. Okay. Okay, I see we didn't cover not even close to what I did, what I wanted. Okay, so next time, wait, 2 weeks is going to be. Oh, okay, fine.
Okay.
Just as that. So we're gonna pick it up from there. We're gonna continue with Ya'aleh Ve'yavo. We're gonna finish this and we're gonna go to the Amidah of Musaf for Shalosh Regalim. Okay, so everybody enjoy Hanukkah, and we'll get together in 2 weeks.